Hi, this is Ben.
This is Lisa.
This is Adrian.
This is Chris.
This is Clive, the Wood-Fired Oven Chef, and you are listening to the Wood-Fired Oven Podcast with Mark Gostin.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Wood-Fired Oven Podcast, folks. What better way to start my day than sipping some gorgeous coffee at a cafe here. Flicking through a stack of amazing books on the table in front of me and listening to some of your incredible recommendations on books that have inspired, educated and motivated you to cook or bake something special. This is a truly crowd-sourced episode, and thanks to all you lovely listeners out there who took the time to send me a short audiobook recommendation recently. I love episodes like this where I can use audio from you, and it helps to gather your ideas and your thoughts and allows me to share these on the show with the world. So thank you for that. So much more of this coming in season 2 of the podcast. Now, all the books mentioned in the episode today can be found at the link in the show notes. And if you want to check out any of them, hit the link and see an amazing selection of books, all recommended by either you, my lovely listeners, or myself. I just wanted to kick off with 3 books at the top of my stack here by Holly and David Jones. Now, if you live in the UK and are listening to this episode, and I know there are quite a few of you out there who tune into the show, I imagine you are already aware of Holly and David. They run one of the UK's best known wood-fired oven cooking schools. They are located near Dartmouth, which is about 4.5 hours drive southwest of London, and that is a lovely part of the world down there. They have published 3 books, and all of which I have here sitting in front of me. The first book is Wood-Fired Flatbreads and Pancakes. Now, this book is right up my alley, and goodness, I just love flatbreads, and if you have tuned in to season 1 of the podcast, you may remember that I absolutely love flatbreads. I think they're so well matched to cooking on hot bricks on the floor of a wood-fired oven. So this book is a must if you like this style of cooking. It contains about 24 recipes, flatbreads and pancakes, and no pizza. There's no pizza in this book. So if you wanted to try some flatbreads that aren't pizza, well, this could well be the book for you. It's a fabulous book. Naan bread, one of my all-time favourite flatbreads to do in the wood-fired oven. They're a lot of fun. They've got a fabulous recipe on page 51 of this book. You have to give it a try. They also have a fabulous recipe for a lahmacun, which is a Turkish flatbread. It's really thin and it's often topped with ground meat, and I think it's fabulous cooked in a wood-fired oven. It's only cooked for a minute or two, and then it's often served with sliced tomatoes, flat leaf parsley, and a super good squeeze of lemon juice. Sometimes other things are added to the top as well. And in Holly and David's recipe, they're suggesting some sliced onion and some parsley, maybe some chili and a splash of yogurt as well. Oh, that sounds absolutely divine. Can't recommend lahmacun enough. Give it a shot. The next book in front of me from Holly and David is Wood-Fired Fish and Seafood. And it's no surprise that they've produced a seafood book. I think you would know that the UK obviously is surrounded by ocean, and what I didn't know is that UK vessels land around 400,000 tonnes of fish each year in the UK. And a very small selection of that is showcased in Holly and David's wonderful book. Now, full disclosure, I'm not a seafood guy. In fact, I can't remember the last time I cooked seafood. However, my wife absolutely loves seafood, and she's particularly excited about this book and has asked me to pick out a couple of recipes for her to make. So I am excited about that. This book, however, for those seafood lovers out there, is beautifully presented, and like all their books, contains a good deal of information about wood-fired ovens, oven heat, understanding the different heat zones in the oven, figuring out without technical gear how hot your oven might be, and then how to utilize all that wonderful heat for your fish. The last book I have here from Holly and David is the Wood-Fired Oven Cookbook. Now, this is an incredible book. It contains about 70 recipes, flatbreads, pizzas, roasts, desserts, cakes. It's a very diverse book, and it's all specifically designed for your wood-fired oven. There's a bunch of photos in here, and it looks to be about 400 of them. It is beautifully, beautifully presented. They include recipes for Boston baked beans, cornbread. Oh, I love cornbread. Haven't had that in years. English muffins, which is a super favourite of mine, and even a pear and almond tart, which I just love those flavours. This utilises puff pastry, which they say works extremely well in a wood-fired oven, and it really does. I've done a few things with puff pastry, and it is absolutely delightful. I could actually do with a slice of that right now in this cafe with my cappuccino. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. 3 fabulous books by David and Holly Jones up there in the UK. I'm very excited about this small announcement that later during season 2 I'm actually heading up to the UK. I've got a recording schedule up there, and one of the places I'm visiting is Dartmouth to go have a chat with Holly and David Jones. I'm going to be dedicating an entire episode to interviewing them on the podcast. Their cooking school really does sound exciting, and I'm looking forward to chatting with them about their passion for both educating wood-fired oven cooks from all around the world and understanding their cooking philosophy in their wood-fired ovens. I hope to get some amazing tips to supercharge our wood-fired oven skills when I chat to them soon. So stay tuned for that episode a little later in the season.
Hello everyone, my name is Sarah, and I would like to recommend Tartine Bread by Chad Robertson. This is the book that got me started on my sourdough journey and eventually got me into wood-fired ovens. I love this book because it is full of great info and technique on how to make excellent bread at home. There are lots of pictures, and as you practice and develop your skills by making mistakes, looking through the book you will start finding clues and everything ties in together. I love making the country loaf, the focaccia, and the baguettes for the farmers markets, and appreciate the last section of the book on recipes for day-old breads. Definitely worth reading if you're into bread making.
What a fabulous recommendation, Sarah. Thank you for sending in your audio recommendation. Chad Robertson is considered to be one of the best bread bakers in the United States. He is co-founder of Tartan Bakery, and they have about 8 locations all around the world, including 6 in Seoul, South Korea. He's recently published his latest book as well, Ideas and Innovations from the Future of Grain, Flour and Fermentation. That was published recently in December 2021. So I might just have to get myself a couple of these books. I love breads. I think breads obviously are so well suited to baking on hot bricks. It's been done for thousands and thousands of years. Great recommendation. Thank you, Sarah. Coming up shortly in season 2 of the podcast, I go out and meet Chris Vozo. I had a delightful fireside chat with Chris in front of his gorgeous bright red wood-fired oven in South Queensland. He is one of the most prolific wood-fired oven home cooks I've ever come across. And I asked Chris if there were any books that inspired him. And he mentioned a book by Stefano Manfredi, New Pizza. Have you taken any inspiration from any wood-fired oven books? Or cookbooks or recipe books, but particularly wood-fired oven based? Have you got anything?
This is my favourite book.
Is it? Yeah.
It's about pizza, but it's he travels to where the food is to see that it's what he wants to use.
So that's a bit of a go-to book for you?
Yeah, I like to have a look at it. It is a pizza book. I mean, it's not like it's something I go to for cooking steak or something, because there's no steak in it. It's a book from Stefano Manfredi. I reckon this is the best pizza book that I've seen.
A recipe book or a technique book, a bit of both?
Both, yeah.
Is it?
So
Yeah.
it's all about how pizza is the world's favourite food, and goes to its origins and has different styles in it, like the Roman pizza. And
Oh, nice.
it talks about flour as well. So
Okay.
what types of flour is good for pizza. So that's what I really liked from it. And he actually uses a flour that we used to use in cans from Petra.
Okay.
I haven't seen it down here, so I use Caputo now. But
Okay. That seems a pretty popular flour in this part of the world.
yeah, it's just so good.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't believe, I was using this other stuff and use the Caputo. It just blows everything else out of the water, you know. But no, I'll pass that book over to you. You can
Yeah.
have a look.
Oh, that's, yeah. Even the colour looks like, makes me hungry. That looks great. New pizza. For the listeners, we'll leave this link in the show notes to this particular book. It's always great when I chat with people to get their favourite recipe books too, because, you know, we tend to have our books that we keep going back to, right? And so, you know, I haven't got a huge variety of cookbooks at home. I've got some, but it's really nice when you get a recommendation from somebody to go have a look at something, you know, and it fills you with new ideas. I'm looking at a page here with asparagus on pizza. Who would have thought?
That's right.
We should do crackle broccoli and asparagus.
Be careful you don't find one of the Brussels sprouts.
No, mate. All right, I'm closing the book, all right? Me and Brussels sprouts, we've got a long, dark history. I really don't like them. It was lovely to catch up with Chris and his wife and wonderful kids down in South Queensland. Stay tuned for the full-length episode with Chris coming up in season 2 of the podcast.
Hi, this is Jim Dwyer from Portland, Oregon, and I'm here to review Francis Mallmann's most recent book, Green Fire. I love this cookbook. There's no meat recipes in it, just comes down strictly to grilling fruits and vegetables. And while I believe that obviously we can just make incredible dishes with meat in a wood-fired oven, how we can transform vegetables and fruit, I find when it comes to entertaining people, is just simply mind-blowing. People just cannot believe the vegetables and especially fruit that I pull out of the wood-fired oven. The only limitation of the book is if you want to be cooking with meat, you're not going to get any recipes for meat. And additionally, when it comes to a number of the recipes, I'd say, 80% of them are limited to cooking on a plancha, which is, it's a really thick, heavy piece of metal that you put over the fire. There's not a lot of recipes that are not cooked on a plancha. A number of them you can adapt without a plancha. You can also just use the floor of the oven for cooking. But I would say this is a great cookbook if you want to focus in on fruits and vegetables in a wood-fired oven, and also cooking a lot on planchas. So thank you very much. Love the show.
Thank you so much, Jim, for that and for your recommendation. It's great to have you tuning into the show. I love cooking vegetables in my wood-fired oven. Leeks straight on the floor is one of my favorites. This book really appeals to me. I don't have a copy of it, but I've done some research on it and it looks like an absolutely fantastic book. Francis Mallmann is an Argentine grill master, and he's the author of a number of books. And I'm going to be hunting this one out shortly. Great recommendation, Jim. Jim popped through another recommendation for us as well.
I would say one of the best cookbooks I've bought, honestly, in the last 2 decades, was one I purchased last year by Gregory Gourdet, Gouret. And it's called Everyone's Table. It is just a magical cookbook. Incredible vegetable recipes, fish and meat recipes. And I just want to share a couple of my favorite recipes. One is called Curry Rubbed Whole Fish. with chili lime sauce and herbs. How this chili rub transforms the skin of the fish is just amazing. So not only when you pull it out of the oven and serve it, it's a visual feast. The curry rub on it just smells incredible, and then you have the taste. Just an incredible recipe. And another one that I serve to lots of friends is called grilled carrots with herby coconut yogurt and spicy beet vinaigrette. Once again, it's roasting carrots in a wood-fired oven. It uses fresh herbs, which I always find so transformative in cooking. And honestly, I don't use coconut yogurt because I find it a little too sweet. I just use a regular yogurt or a Greek yogurt. And these are just two simple examples of a couple of recipes from this book that it will just transform your friend's experience when you bring them over to cook, to eat from your wood-fired oven. So I hope you guys like the book. Once again, I cannot recommend it enough. Thanks. Love the show. Bye.
Well, that's another fabulous recommendation, Jim. Thanks for taking the time to send me that one as well.
Hi, this is Mark Daska from Wisconsin. You may know me as the Wisconsin Woodfired. I wanted to mention a book that was not on your list. That is The Art of Wood-Fired Cooking by Andrea Buonaini. I picked up this book when I first ordered my wood-fired oven, as I wanted to have an idea of everything that I could make within it. I do like this book for the reason that it is not just pizza, but it does have other recipes as well, probably like many of the other books that you are reviewing. It also does have a section on basically how to operate a wood-fired oven and best practices for maintaining temperatures for the various types of cooks that you're going to have. There is a color coding for each recipe in terms of what type of fire, what type of heat you're going to be using. I have made a few of the recipes out of this book so far, and the best one so far is the chicken with tomatoes. Very enjoyable recipe, fun to make, and I would highly recommend it. Again, The Art of Wood-Fired Cooking by Andrea Buonaini.
Mark, thank you so much for sending in your book recommendation, The Art of Wood-Fired Cooking. It sounds like a great book and certainly something those new to wood-fired oven cooking might benefit greatly from. Mark sent in another recommendation, The Bread Baker's Apprentice by Peter Reinhardt. This is a classic book.
I have The Bread Baker's Apprentice by Peter Reinhardt, which I can't find right now as I think my son has absconded with it. We have made nearly every recipe within the book. However, I would say that the very first wood-fired oven bake that we did was some potato, cheddar, and chive torpedo out of the wood-fired oven section. The recipes are well written and easy to follow. The book has an excellent section at the beginning that is fantastic primer on bread baking concepts such as baker's percentages and various pre-ferments, among other concepts. The recipes are not written in metric, so we have had to work through the book and convert all the weights from ounces to grams. I would highly recommend this book with a variety of styles and variations of each style.
Well, I've got this book sitting on the table here in front of me, and Mark, I've just checked the potato, cheddar, and chive torpedoes on page 307 of my version of the book, and they look just divine, and they are going on the list to bake in my wood-fired oven over the next few months. A great book, fabulous book. I love it. It's a great recommendation, Mark. Thank you so much for sending those in to the Wood-Fired Oven podcast. One of the things that has really inspired me to continue hosting the Wood-Fired Oven podcast is the connections it has allowed me to make with wonderful folk from all around the planet. The Netherlands is very far away from me. I sit in this cafe with my coffee. But Ariane, who is an absolute wood-fired oven home cook expert, has sent in a couple of recommendations all the way from the Netherlands. Ariane, thank you so very much for sending these through.
Hello, my name is Ariane. I'm from the Netherlands, and I would like to recommend a cooking book for wood-fired cooking. My opinion is that everything you do on a barbecue, you can also do in a wood-fired oven. In the Netherlands, we have a person who calls himself a pyroclastic cooking adventurer. His name is Jort Althuizen. And since shortly, his books, Smoky Goodness, are also available in English. The man is very well known in the Netherlands, also has his own restaurant, only cooks on wood fire. And he has so many different things to prepare. He has also been to Australia. In Australia, he made a book that is called No Worries Barbecue. He has been out back and he's been cooking roux and lots of other things. I'm hoping that book will come available also for Australian audience. He has loads of stuff. He went outside in the outback, Billabong barbecue, buns and stuff. He makes salads, smashed avocado, grilled chicken toast, but also grilled vegetables with dips and tips. He has real big knowledge. And I transfer that to my wood-fired oven.
Fantastic recommendation. Thank you for sending that in. I think that's one of the great things, isn't it, about wood-fired oven cooking. We can take our recipe books that might be sitting on our shelf, work our way through some of our favourite recipes and modify and convert them for cooking in the wood-fired oven. And that certainly sounds like what you're doing there with some of the recipes in this guy's book, and I've taken a look at his books. He's done quite a few of them and they look fantastic. Can't wait for them to be produced in English so I have a fighting chance at understanding what he's saying. But goodness, what a fantastic recommendation. If you're enjoying this episode, I'd like to invite you to head on over to Facebook and join my Wood-Fired Oven Chronicles Facebook group. Join hundreds and hundreds of wood-fired oven enthusiasts from all around the world as they share their recipes, tips and techniques to supercharge our wood-fired oven cooking skills. Head on over to Instagram as well, Marks_wood-fired oven, for more information on this podcast. Back now to the UK. The United Kingdom seems to produce some fabulous wood-fired oven cooks. Thinking Holly and David Jones, Clive, the wood-fired oven chef, was originally from the UK. And another fairly famous person from the UK is Genevieve Taylor. If you're on Instagram and if you enjoy following folks who are fabulous with their food, Genevieve is one of those. Check her out on Instagram at Genevieve Eats on Instagram. A fabulous profile showcasing all her exceptional skills with cooking with fire. She is an author, a live fire cook and a teacher, and runs the Bristol Fire School in the Southwest. And I'm hoping one day soon I might have the opportunity to sit down with Genevieve on the podcast and chat to her about all things wood-fired cooking. That would be a great episode. Here's another recommendation from Ariane.
I would like to recommend a wood-fired oven cooking book. The author is Genevieve Taylor. In Dutch, the title is The Ultimate Wood Oven Cookbook, and it's also available in English, but I don't know what the title is. The reason why I love this book so much, it is because it is for the greenhorns who never use the wood-fired oven. It gives all the information, how to fire up the oven, how to fire up optimally. It gives very simple recipes with explanations to the T, but also very special recipes, but with usual ingredients. So everybody can buy it. What I also like is she has a whole array of recipes, varying from pizzas to chicken to sweet stuff, how to make your own pizza dough, how to roast and grill, how to cook fish, kebabs, crostini, cheese toasties, vegetables, one-pot wonders, crispy kale, toad in the hole, roasted chili pineapple with whipped coconut cream, One of my favorite recipes is the recipes with walnut pepper bread with baked camembert. Fougasse it is called in France. So for everyone who is starting with cooking on a wood-fired oven, I would recommend this book highly.
Well, Ariane, you're not the only person to recommend Genevieve Taylor's books to me for this podcast episode. Here's Chris from Adelaide.
Hi Mark, my cookbook recommendations. My name is Chris and I'm from Adelaide, and I'm addicted to cookbooks, especially books about cooking with fire. My recommendation is for books by Genevieve Taylor. She specialises in outdoor cooking, whether it's Charred, her guide to grilling and barbecuing vegetables, Seared, her latest guide to barbecuing meat ethically and sustainably, or more relevant to this podcast, the Ultimate Wood-Fired Oven Cookbook. As with all her books, she discusses techniques and the science behind them simply and briefly to help build practical skills, such as how to make the most of the different stages of heating and cooling the oven. At the end of the day, it is a cookbook, and one filled with easy, tasty and fulfilling recipes, from traditional herby meatballs and a cheesy tomato sauce, prawn soup, fruit cake, pavlova, and of course pizza, to the not so obvious, like chicken biryani, aloo parathas and beef rendang. The good thing is, you don't need to wait until you fire up your wood-fired oven. For most of these recipes, you can also do them on the barbecue or even in your kitchen, and they come out great. So, if you're like me, you'll get a lot of use out of any of these books by Genevieve Taylor. But my recommendation today is The Ultimate Wood-Fired Oven Cookbook by Genevieve Taylor. Enjoy!
Well, thank you, Mark, for that recommendation. It certainly sounds like this is a must-have book for my bookshelf. I'm certainly going to take a little look at some of the other books that Genevieve has written as well. She really is a foodie fire expert. Chris from Phoenix in Arizona. Hey, thanks for sending in your recommendation to the podcast. Really nice to hear from you.
Hey, Mark, this is Chris Faddis from Phoenix, Arizona. And I want to nominate my favorite book, Bianco, by Chris Bianco, the Pizzaiolo at Pizzeria Bianco, world known. It's a fantastic book, great dough recipes, great tips and insights on making dough, and then a ton of amazing Italian dishes, and just a great book. So Bianco by Chris Bianco is my nomination. Maybe I'm biased because his famed restaurant is right here in Phoenix. But thank you again for your show. Love your show and love everything you're doing.
Hey, thanks, Chris. That is a great recommendation. Chris Bianco. He's a second-generation New York Italian. And this amazing pizzeria in Arizona sounds like a must-go-to place when I'm next up in the States. Thanks again, Chris. I really appreciate you sending in your recommendation. And thanks for your kind words about the podcast. I really appreciate that. We can't talk about cooking with fire without talking about this next book, Food from the Fire by Niklas Ekstedt. Niklas Ekstedt is a Swedish chef, runs Ekstedt restaurant. It is world famous. He's recently opened another restaurant in London, which I'm very excited to be visiting during season 2 of the podcast. His book, Food from the Fire, the Scandinavian flavors of open fire cooking, has inspired me to branch out and try new things. In particular, the use of the flambardou. So after following Niklas Ekstedt on Instagram and purchasing this book, I had to grab myself a flambardou. I purchased it off eBay, actually, from France. And if you're not aware what a flambardou is, it's basically a thick iron cone which is mounted on the end of a very long metal handle. And the cone has a hole in the bottom, and you heat the cone up in the oven until it is almost glowing, and you drop bits of fat into the cone and drizzle it over meat that you wish to baste. It's basically an ancient basting tool. But what's pretty special about the flambardou is this fat ignites, and as it drips out the bottom, it's like flowing lava, flaming lava, basting your food. It is very special, imparts a very unique flavor to whatever's getting basted. I know that Niklas Ekstedt bastes seafood with his flambardou. I've done it with steak, and vegetables and chicken. And I think it is an essential tool in the wood-fired oven cooking tools. Now, I'm not a seafood guy, as I mentioned earlier, but flamed oysters with shallots and apple dressing kissed by this flambardou certainly might get a taste when I visit his restaurant in London. It looks pretty spectacular, even for seafood. Another recipe that utilises the flambardou is flamed halibut and citrus with mushroom and salsify noodles. And that dish, while again seafood, looks absolutely divine. And they're just some of the foods that you can experiment with the flambardou. So if you're wanting to expand your horizons with tools like this when cooking with fire, you might want to grab this book. And I'm not the only wood-fired oven cook out there that I know of that uses a flambardou. Vanessa sent in a book recommendation, which we'll listen to in a moment, but I know that she also has a flambardou and really enjoys experimenting and using it in her gorgeous wood-fired oven in Maryland in the USA.
Hello, Mark. My name is Vanessa. There are a few books I'd recommend. However, today I would like to talk about a book I found easy to use and understand when I first started cooking in my oven. The book is called Kissed by Fire: Wood Oven Recipes from the Wine Country by Bridget Brentz. I have tried many recipes in the book, but one I return to often is the ember roasted artichokes. I found the book in the Forno Bravo website. It's a PDF file which my husband printed and bound for me as a gift.
Great recommendation, Vanessa. It looks like a really great book. It discusses fire management, the basics of the wood-fired oven, temperature, heat and tools. It looks like it's an all-in-one fabulous book, so a great recommendation. Thank you for sending it in. For those of you who have been inspired to consider building or perhaps already completed your wood-fired oven, you've probably come across the name of Alan Scott. Alan was born in Australia, actually, back in 1936, and sadly passed away in early 2009. Alan co-authored the book The Bread Builders, Hearth Loaves and Masonry Ovens with Daniel Wing, and this classic book is sitting in front of me. Alan began his early life as a blacksmith, actually, and later became interested in brick ovens. He became an expert in both the use and the construction of these ovens, and he eventually wrote this incredible book. The book was first printed in 1999 and has sold, apparently, well over 40,000 copies. Interestingly, the young man on the cover of the book is Chad Robertson, who wrote Tartan Bread, as mentioned by Sarah earlier in the episode. This amazing book is divided into two main sections. The first part of the book discusses bread, grains, flours, fermentation, dough development, and baking itself. And it really is a masterclass in baking gorgeous breads in your wood-fired oven. From about chapter 6 onwards, the authors turn their attention to the brick oven itself. They discuss the history, the preparation, the build process in quite a bit of detail. And they provide heaps of information, like why we don't need to use a hinged door to the different types of brick arches that can grace the front of the dome. The book finishes with an interesting discussion on oven management. There's a lot of information here. It includes an interesting section on oven temperature profiles. And this is something that I discussed with Clive, the wood-fired oven chef from YouTube, in season 1. Clive also plotted his temperature profile over several days. And it's something I plan to do this season of the podcast as well. This allows us to understand our oven better, what to cook at different times, how best to utilize the full heat cycle. It's a pretty interesting subject, actually. If you've plotted your oven temperatures, I would love to hear from you. Get in touch with me at woodfiredoven.cooking and drop me a line. Well, that's about all we've got time for on this episode today. I haven't got through my entire stack of books. It's been a wonderful hour or so flicking through these books, researching them, and putting this show together. Thank you so very much to all of you who took the time and sent me in your audiobook recommendations. I just love episodes where you let me know some of the things that you love about cooking with fire. These audio messages were left for me at my website, woodfiredoven.cooking. And on the bottom right on any page on the site, you will see a small microphone icon. Click the icon and leave me a short audio message, which I may feature on the show. The easiest way to record is using your mobile phone. I'd love to hear from you. If you have a question about the show or a question about cooking in your wood-fired oven, head on over and leave me a voice message. Let's do an episode like this again sometime. I'll also leave links to all of these books we've discussed in today's show notes. Stay safe, have fun, and go cook with fire.